together very organically by playing around with just summon platform. I read a tutorial online about AI agents, and someone had wrote this tutorial about how you can connect ChatGPT through LangChain, this orchestration layer, to Slack. I was like, oh, this would be perfect. So I like did that tutorial, and then all of a sudden, like I had my AI agent FAQ, who's Falcon A Quest, who's meant to be like the customer support new user onboarding agent. And all of a sudden it was like in Slack, and I could talk to it through Slack, and that's where the light bulbs really went off. I was like, okay, like I can build this sort of lightweight production infrastructure where people can come and configure their own AI assistants and then talk to them in Slack. So Crazy is like easy way for people to, experiment with what is AI, build their own AI avatar, put it in the game, play with Web3 tech. So on the DAOgen.ai site, you'll see all the characters we built. You'll see the Squircle coin. You'll see the summon DAO that we've created. You can even go to the summon platform and see our DAO and see the votes that we've done so far, like in the game. We're currently running the game. We call them chapters, and we're doing chapter 2 right now, which is the Great Miami Crypto Heist, and it's literally just sort of taking what actually happened at the Web3 Continuum conference during Bitcoin Miami in May, but turning it into this fictional story, right? Like we had all these people from crypto. We had BitBoy Crypto was there. We had like the mayor's office come in. So right now where the game is, we're like playing the fictional version of the poker game, but there actually was a poker game at the conference. And so a lot of the people that were there, like I sort of roped them into this sort of fictional story, and to spoil the surprise what's about to happen once I get out of Catalyst promoting phase of this is when I have time to go back to the game. The poker game is about to get raided, and what's going to happen is anyone that's in the game will have to get lost in the crowd, and the way you get lost in the crowd is by getting lots of people to follow your character on Twitter. So we're like sort of playing with this all like these quests, these like ways to go viral, while earning Squircle coins, so you can like be incentivized to play, and then be able to vote in like what happens. So if you get lost in the crowd by getting 10 people to follow you on Twitter, like you get to go to the after party after the poker game and continue the game. If you don't, you get thrown in jail because you get caught, right? So one of the future votes we're going to do is judge and jury, and this is going to test the Summon platform's capability of NFT-based voting. So a lot of what I'm trying to craft in the story is testing different aspects of the Summon platform. So one of the things it does is holders of certain NFTs can like be the ones that vote. And so I was thinking, well, why don't we do like a judge and jury vote? So all the people that get caught that didn't get lost in the crowd will have some sort of like, do they get prison time? I don't know what the vote will be yet, but some sort of thing where we use NFTs as the judge and jury to vote on the outcome of some of the players' sort of next stage in the chapter. So those are the kinds of things we're doing. It's I call it a game, and it is a game, but it's not a game like a lot of the other games, right? We're not trying to build this virtual video and immersive like experience yet. We're just focused on simple Slack text, like a choose your own adventure book. Really trying to focus on the experience of using these tools to facilitate the gameplay and the narrative and your experience, in the game with your character and playing with AI agents and these kinds of things. So fill out the form, go to DAOgen.ai, fill out the form on the contact us page. And when we get to going with chapter 3, there'll be a whole new narrative arc, a whole new opportunity for characters to get placed into the story, and we'll do another round basically with everything we've learned from chapter 2. And if you'd like to be a dungeon master, that's the other thing. We think with DAOgen is there's lots of people out there that are storytellers. There's lots of people that love Dungeons and Dragons. We want to create a place where if you and your friends want to come and just do a game night, you can like hire or just use the platform to do a game night, and use our AI agents to, come up with stories for your your game or whatever it is. So that's actually the reason why I need to put up a tokenomics page, because it's sort of like I sat down one morning and I wrote down like, what should the tokenomics be of Squircle coin? So roughly the way it works out is there's 1024 100 million coins, and the idea is like we'll allocate 10 million for each chapter. So every like chapter, like every sort of game that goes on, there'll be 10 million coins that'll be allocated, and the dungeon master can do whatever they want with them. They can give them away for quests. They can charge people money to get them to like play the game or whatever it is, right? Like, what if someone like Stephen King or someone like Neil Stephenson came in and ran one of these games? Like, people might actually pay to like play with a dungeon master of that caliber. So it's sort of some of the ideas we have for where it might go. It is really cool. I don't know how much you played with ChatGPT, but when you ask it to do like fictional narrative storytelling, it's like it's so interesting how good it is. If you read a lot of the characters we have in DAOgen, like everything is like I prompted it to say like in the style of Neil Stephenson in Snow Crash. Like that's sort of what I've done with it. I don't know if I'm like copyright infringing on Neil Stephenson or not, but probably.
Thanks, Tony. So, well, maybe the guys can talk about Andamio, and I, because of what Tony told us about StudentReader, and I was like interested in what they were was doing already. So maybe there is a lot of room there for guys, for a collaboration or something. So who wants to take the mic?
Is that Javi R. El Ribo?
And maybe I don't know if he wants. I know he's tired, so maybe on another occasion. But maybe there is a very cool demo of something how he's building. But let's see if he wants to
Come on, Javi, don't be shy.
I mean, I guess so. I can show it. I mean, it's currently in development, so keep that in mind. But yeah, I'm kind of using self-sovereign credentials and concretely anon creds to issue disposable emails. Well, emails, no, actually, disposable email accounts that you can basically host in your browser instance. And as soon as you close the browser tab, nobody else can receive or listen to that email account, even if you log out. So that's, I guess we achieved the first authentication using self-sovereign credentials on an email protocol. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. So how this works is it connects to a peer-to-peer network on libp2p. And using DIT peers, we are establishing secure connections using the DITCOM protocol. And yeah, it's going to look as simple as here. So you would enter the email account that you want to create. Then there is an email server that is listening for emails somewhere else. And then you would need to establish a connection with the email server and approve that you want to actually receive emails from that server. As soon as this is confirmed, you will be able to receive actual emails from outside. The cool thing is that, as I'm saying, it's a peer-to-peer network. So this is just the first example. So anybody else can create or connect their own domain to this ecosystem and use their own service and their own rules to, for example, not accept emails that are not coming from any source that you do not want or anything like that. And I'm personally thinking to use this as a two-factor email protection because I'm literally sure that nobody is going to be able to send me an email if I'm not listening. So it doesn't matter if they have the password, like the email just, it will not get there. That's it. It's the email server that has been manipulated. And also the fact that we have credentials is very interesting. And that's it.
And
How is this like?
That's
how-
it.
Is this like AdaMail? Is it similar to AdaMail?
So I think ADAML concept is a little bit different. And you know, as part of GameChanger, we have strong convincement and strong philosophy. And in my case, I do not think it's right to make people mint an email account, first of all, in exchange for a subscription that in my place doesn't exist. This is a serverless service. So there is no actually email server. The email server gets the email and actually instantly after throws it away. Like it's like a peer-to-peer network. It's like a proxy more than an email server.
So it's kind of like Noster, but using Dapps and Dapps.com.
Yeah. And if you do not trust my domain, because you do not trust the code that I deployed in my email server, it's fine. You can connect your own domain, configure your own stuff, connect to the protocol, and everything will work.
I want to spin up my own server now, just to get to know more about how it works.
I'm curious why use email. Why not just use text chat?
What do you mean?
Well, maybe I misunderstand this. So in order for a person to send me an email using this protocol, we have to connect. And then that person can. Okay.
No. So in order for me to access, so if you want to send the email account must exist. The destination email server knows that your account exists because it's stored somewhere. Because it got a database where your emails are stored, that's called your inbox. In my case, there's no inbox. In the moment where I receive a new email, I check if you are listening. If you are not listening, I tell the sender that the email cannot be delivered because there's an error or something happened. So there's actually no way to contact you through email if you are actually not listening and proving that it's you. If that makes sense.
So, yes,
So
somehow it's turning email.
I'm a little confused.
It's a serverless, passwordless service, actually.
Turning email into chat, kind of, right? Because you need to be online to receive emails. Online meaning that you have a tab in a browser connected to the Live peer-to-peer or a mobile app, yeah, wherever.
Yeah, whatever. Again, it is a first version. I started this project on past Friday for you guys to understand. But my idea is that in a future you can provision your own infrastructure and then you do not need to mint anything because, I don't know, GameChanger team can build 3 or 4 servers and all of us can share this infrastructure together. And then it would be kind of multi-party signing and computation, like in a way that none of us will see the emails of the others and all that stuff.
What language is the server written in?
Everything on TypeScript.
So you could actually run, I mean, it will be not that easy because of ports exposure, but you could actually run the server in a browser as well.
In the past, I achieved something that, like, maybe it's off topic totally, but I achieved something that was mind-blowing and it is the ability to answer an HTTP request from inside my browser. So how I did that is using a peer-to-peer network. I established two sockets, one going backwards and one going front. Then when the HTTP server receives the request, I redirect it to your browser. And then you say, okay, I have an HTTP post, whatever. And you can write literally the answer that you want. I want to send a JSON on a 200. You click and it sends the answer.
The problem here will be that SMTP servers will need to actually connect to your relay email server, right? So whether
Well,
they support live peer-to-peer to actually traverse networks and connect to your browser running the email server,
no, of course.
or
They will need to deploy that in their own domain or connect through DNS to our server, something like that. Like there's the two versions, right? The version that I trust 0. If you trust 0, then get the source code, check yourself. If you trust it, deploy it yourself. If you trust that it's a service that has an open repository and you can trust the infra and the maintenance, then you can use by CNAME, you connect the DNS.
I was thinking how we could turn this into a complete solution for anybody wanting to run their own email server easily.
And you know, one thing that I want to say is that I am trying to think how to enforce people to maybe, and yeah, I do not want people to buy something that has no value. But I may want to explore forcing people to be staking to specific pools, and that gives you permission to use the service. But how to establish proof of that is what I still don't know. But anyway, it's a very long conversation. I'm creating the service still, and it's probably going to be ready, I don't know, 15 days, something like that.
Cool.
Crazy cool stuff.
Love it. Since ages, because this is a revival of that project. So that's the nice part, that you continue the work. So congratulations. And Javi, we need to talk. There is a lot to think about. I guess Tony made a tweet relating this with mnemonics from wallets. In the same way, we need to maybe find some relationships here with the wallets, with GameChanger, I mean. So yeah,
absolutely. I think there's two collaborations here. One with Andamio, because I'm super excited about the LMS, because I loved your tweet this week about how you've learned a lot from Canvas and are now sort of replacing it, because with the Prism Pioneer program, we use Canvas, and I negotiated that license with Instructure. It's fucking expensive. It's like $8 a student per year. So if someone comes, takes one class for 10 minutes, that's $8. It doesn't scale. And so at StudentReader, we currently have our learning lab for identity, and we want to do more. I'm currently just doing them with blog posts, but it'd be great if there was like a more robust LMS that we could use and build out labs on. So that'd be super cool. And then we have been talking about the convergence of identity and crypto wallets for a really long time. The research that you mentioned, that was one of the first things I did when I started my job at IO 2 years ago, was I asked the crypto research team, can you use the same mnemonic for a crypto wallet as for an identity wallet? Because no one had ever asked that question that I was aware of. And I asked all the experts in the identity world about DIDs and the underlying cryptography of like how are DIDs generated. And it turns out they also use a mnemonic. And so I was like, okay, well, if the identity world's using mnemonics and the crypto world's using mnemonics, what happens if you use the same one? Then the user only has to do one mnemonic. It turns out, based on the research, that it's actually secure and safe to do that. They derive DIDs in slightly different ways. There's a different like architecture of, and that's what the research paper goes into, and it's pretty nerdy. Like it's very technical. I understood it when I read it a year and a half ago, but it gets into like the Bitcoin improvement proposals. I think is like BIP 32 and BIP 49 or something like that, and different derivation schemes. And it looks at how DIDs do similar kinds of things. So I'll actually be reviving that research and bringing it back because now that Prism V2 is, I don't know, Javi, I think it's here. It's almost here. We can actually seriously start building wallets that are doing both crypto and identity. And we have a use case right now, right? We're launching 10 students in Kenya in a couple weeks with our scholarship program. And the way it works right now, they have to have one wallet to get the NFT book, a one wallet to get their credentials, and then the crypto wallet to get the scholarship. So it's really not a great UX, right? It's like, why, imagine you're a new learner, newly coming into Web3, and we're like, we have all these cool things. You can finish a course, get a completion credential, win a scholarship with a smart contract on chain. And they're like, oh, that sounds cool. You Web3 people like doing interesting things. And we're like, well, here's what you have to do. Download the ProofSpace wallet. Then you have to download Eternal. Now you have to figure out like what these things are. Now, but if like one wallet can do both, we can then start working, how do we streamline those experiences where, doing things with your identity, with your accomplishments and achievements, it just feels natural. It feels like, oh, I completed that course. Oh yeah, I tap or I scan a QR code. Now I get my completion credential. That feels natural. Oh, I've finished all the things that I need to do in order to win the scholarship. Same wallet, same phone, tap the thing or scan the QR code, do a consent to share some information. I get a payment. Right? All of those things should be much more streamlined than they are now, but we've not been able to build them because we haven't had the technology yet. And this is really what the proposal we have for the Aiken smart contract is about, is doing the next version of the student reader scholarship program with Prism V2 and Aiken. But we don't have a wallet partner yet, right? Like we don't want to build the wallets, right? We think the wallet should support things like holding credentials and redeeming scholarships. And so if GameChanger Wallet wants to, lean into that bleeding edge with us, that would be freaking awesome.
The answer has been yes since months. We have been discussing this even with, as I told you, with the guys on Roots ID. Of course, there is a lot of work to do. Outside this topic, but yes, GameChanger is prepared now for these kind of things. There is you can customize the way. All the schemes, the derivation schemes you want to have on the wallet. You can do it. Of course, there are some limitations and some things has to be carefully done because it can be harmful. But there is a lot of freedom now to design your own wallet, if I can say. So it's not a hierarchical deterministic wallet, and it's not a single address wallet. It's whatever the user or the DApp wants it to be, thanks to a concept called workspaces that is part of the DSL. So with the DSL, you can design these key derivations, and then you can use them, combining them with transactions, with message signing, or maybe with this. So let's let's keep these conversations, because I literally thought about all these use cases, and I believe that we are getting very ready to, to expand this world into these other ones. So
Yeah, absolutely. And part of the partnership is with StudentReader, we're trying to attract people that are curious to learn about it, which means they're friendly customers, right? They're friendly beta customers, because the reality is no one's built wallets that do both of these things yet. So I believe we have a lot to learn on the UX side of things. And that's, for the scholarship redemption process. And we haven't even yet talked about using the wallet and the self-sovereign social graph instead of Slack for the DAOgen game, right? Like that's really where I want to go, is, to be able to have social interactions, in my wallet. So I don't need to give my list of friends to third parties anymore, or give all of my messaging. And like, I don't think we realize, I'm just starting to realize it, thinking about the self-sovereign social graph thing, how valuable the social graph is that Twitter has, right? That LinkedIn has, that Facebook has. They have such a bird's eye view over all of our society globally. And we just willingly give it to them for nothing. We don't even have access to our own social graph, right? Like, it's kind of mind-blowing. So I don't know. But I think the GameChanger wallet, you guys and your team, because you're so deep in DIDs and crypto, I think we could really like push hard. Let's see how the Catalyst funding the boils down, but let's start building these things, because we can now. Right? We're actually to a point now as an industry where we can start building the things we've been talking about and thinking about. In a big part because Prism V2 like now makes things possible. And also like Cardano's as an L1 is like getting much more mature. Like we're seeing really cool like user facing apps coming out now that are beyond DeFi, right? Like I'm sick of trading tokens. Like, that was fun for a year. We got to give people new things to do here, right? Besides degen.
Quasar, you got me thinking, because I think you are completely right. New type of workspace in Game Changer for DIDs. Some of the conversations we had in CF regarding DIDs and sharing crypto wallet, cryptocurrency wallet keys with the identity wallet keys was that it's fine. Well, it's not fine, but it's somehow fine losing your mnemonics and getting your funds stolen, but it's not funny to get your identity stolen. So there is this nuance on sharing those keys, but we could, with Game Changer, the way workspaces work, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adriano, is you have your root key derivated from mnemonics, but then you have multiple workspaces derivated with your root key plus some extra byte string that it's feed from your profile stored on chain, encrypted. How did that work? Because I think that it makes sense that you have a single passphrase, but then for your identity, you have some extra entropy added to those mnemonics that become your DID, and that extra entropy should be protected with
I'm gonna
extra care.
I'm just gonna strongly disagree.
Okay.
Right? Like
This is when it becomes interesting.
mnemonics are already secure if you keep them secure. Let's not add complexity, right? Like for new users coming into Web3, the mnemonic is the learning curve, right? If you have your life savings in a wallet with a mnemonic that you don't protect, that's your fucking problem, right? Like that's the agency, that's the accountability that is part of the ethos of Web3, right? We're not your babysitter. The bank isn't your babysitter. Twitter's not your babysitter. You are your own human. You have agency. You have access to more freedom because of this technology, but it comes at a cost. protect your mnemonic. Now,
I
right, and the thing is, it's trivial to make another one. So if you have a highly valuable one, do that. The other thing too is, before we add complexity to the convergence of identity and crypto wallets, let's just do the simple design first, which is like one mnemonic can derive DIDs and crypto. Now, the difference with account recovery of crypto is when you refresh your wallet with your mnemonic and you recover it, you have access to your crypto. It's not the same with identity, right? You can derive the same DIDs, but you don't magically have your credentials back, right? So there's a lot of subtleties and nuance and UX to figure out with identity wallets. How does account recovery work? How does backup work? You know, if you do lose your mnemonic and you're trusting a third party to provide a restore service for you, how do they like re-identify you to do that restore service? But I don't think we need to add additional complexity. I think we have enough complexity to solve just with the simple case. And I think it really boils down to like, how does account recovery work for users that like want to have some kind of safety?
Yep, I completely agree. I was just thinking that to maybe add some minimal extra security to the DID side of the wallet. Like, I don't know, Entropy could come from a multi-signature from some close known peers or wallets. Because yeah,
would that be part of a
recovery?
Yeah. So you're, yeah, exactly. So what you're actually getting to is, how do we do recovery, right? It's sort of, because with the mnemonic, you don't recover your credentials, you just recover the cryptographic material.
Yep.
I'm not even sure if you are able to recover your connections, right? If you have your own self-sovereign social graph in this wallet and you've connected to these people, and you swap DIDs, and then you lose that device and you recover your DIDs with your mnemonic, I don't think it knows who you're connected to. It can prove that you have control over those DIDs to reconnect. But if you want to store, that's the thing, I think with identity, because these things are not transferable between people like NFTs are, like crypto assets are, there's just a different way of thinking about the UX of these cases where recovery or portability is desired. You know, and that's part of why we want to build in DAOgen, which is this, like, you know, there's no financial risk to play DAOgen, right? It's, if you lose your wallet, you make a mistake, okay, who cares? We'll give you more Squircle coins. Like, come back, try again, right? And so I think because there's not really a lot of identity wallets out there, like there really aren't, a lot of the UX is just completely unexplored for how to do it.
For sure, there is a lot to learn, at least from my side. The nice thing, we have maybe Javi, and of course you, Tony, or anyone who can you know, add feedback and lead a bit the way, because we really want to. I mean, I speak for all the team and all the people involved. I think it's going to be a nice addition, but it needs to make sense, not just to add features because, right? So the idea is to think this carefully, but to keep moving, right? So as soon as it's possible, let's do it. Very quickly, if I may, like, share screen a bit, just for people, if there's anyone curious about this, let me know if you're watching. You're watching the wallet?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so it's I mean currently the support is it's not, I mean, it's freely allowing you to derive. For example, I'm going to show you just a part here of this script that derives keys. We have the ability to derive keys that are used on Cardano currently. So this is the way you can instruct the wallet to derive. And what is going to happen, because this is not, I mean, this can be used, as it's called on the wallet, as volatile derivations, volatile keys, or maybe if you build up addresses with this, those can be volatile addresses. The recommended way would be to design a workspace. A workspace is a set of keys, addresses, and other artifacts that interrelate each other, and the recipe can be stored on chain. The recipe, nothing that links you directly to a specific mnemonic or private key. This is the idea. And even if you are very paranoid and you don't want to store it on chain, you can deal with this stuff using the DSL. Of course, there is a risk. The idea is to keep to remember, of course, all the derivation paths that you have been using to construct your key derivations, your addresses, maybe your for example, your native scripts, right? So this, if I may, okay, I don't have many examples here, but for example, here, what workspaces allow on GameChanger also is to deal with multi-sig setups with shared treasuries. So this is why we have this shared treasury here that consists on a spending script credential and a staking script credential. And you can deal with this through the wallet without any other DApp. And actually, DApps face this wallet as a user wallet. DApps maybe don't realize that you are dealing with a shared treasury address instead of I would say a typical address. This, I don't know if this can be an introduction of these features, if anyone is interested. So, but yes, for sure, would be nice. Would be nice to explore that path, Tony and Javi.
Mm-hmm.
So it will be a matter of extending that derivation, I mean, to have a specialized deep profile or workspace that derives whatever path. That's where you will store your
that would be
credentials as well.
It would be nice to read that that article, that thing that Tony was mentioning, that you, Roe, also asked him about. It would be nice to start exploring how DITs are working with this, and to see how we can reach those derivation schemes and make them compatible somehow.
I'll post the blog post today. So I've been kind of working on it. It's going to be like kind of in the spirit of student reader, like a non-technical overview of mnemonics first, just but then it's going to get into some of the details for the more technical readers of the research, and then I'll just post the research document directly in the post as well, so we can have that as a sort of foundation to start the conversations.
Nice.
But I think having a real world use case is super helpful, like to sort of think it through, like, you know, how and maybe what we do is, you know, assuming we get the funding for the smart contract and Prism V2 scholarship program, we could just work on it together, because it's a lot easier to think through. Well, okay, have a student, the student gets a DID, the student gets some credentials, they interact with an Oracle, then they get a scholarship, right? Those 5 steps run through all the main things the wallet has to do to like manage and support DADs, hold credentials, present credentials, hold an NFT book, and then receive ADA for the scholarship. And then it's less abstract, right? It's a little easier to wrap your head around the technology piece of it if we have a student, you know, real use case. Yeah, I see a bright future in our collaboration for sure.
Will it make sense to store verifiable credentials on GameChanger file system? Given no one should be able to actually recompose those chunks that will make the verifiable credential block. If they don't know your wallet configuration, you could do that instead of storing VCs on your device. And that will already be.
I think like where, you know, there's 2 choices, right? You can either store the credentials, you know, within the context of the wallet at the edge, or in some form of cloud option, right? And there's lots of cloud options to consider.
Yeah, I was thinking to replace the cloud option by GameChanger file system, because if you don't have the configuration for that workspace that holds the VCs, you wouldn't be able to. I mean, you could maybe use some very powerful AI to try to recompose VCs from all the little chunks that GC file system stores on chain, but that's highly improbable. So that's the bit that I was thinking to replace cloud providers. I will, yeah, as Javi suggested, we'll use hardware, but why not?
Well, however the credentials are stored, obviously it's got to be highly secure. But one of the key things to think through is, you know, the UX of account recovery. Right? Obviously, you need to think through the UX of accepting a credential, which includes storage, and then presenting a credential, which retrieves, and that should be seamless to the user, right? But how does account recovery work, right? That's sort of the thing where I don't think there's been hardly any UX research in terms of how that should work. Where do you trusted third-party custodians come in as part of an account recovery process, right? Like social recovery. You know, there's a lot of research, there's a lot of papers, there's a lot of ideas out there. I just haven't seen any like actually being built and tried out. The decentralized web node is something a lot of people have been excited about, is like a common standard way to give users their own private storage that's recoverable, but it's something I'm not an expert on, but I know a lot of people have been excited about.
Robert, just a quick note. The header transaction will be like exposing the relationship between all the data transactions that are the actual that are like splitting the data, storing them on chain. Maybe by removing that header information and working it off chain, we can achieve what you're saying. Totally.
Yeah, I don't think you want to store it on chain. Like you definitely don't want to store these things on chain.
Okay. At least maybe references, maybe some data. I mean, the nice thing is to have alternatives. So maybe there is a use case that would would benefit from storing at least some part of the information on chain. If that's the case, you can count with this file system solution. Otherwise, even once again, for the derivation schemes used for dealing with the keys, maybe it's another way, because once again, we're not storing nothing mnemonic specific, master or root key specific. It's just the derivation schemes maybe that allows you to recover always from on-chain data, so kind of you can trust that that data will be there forever. At least that is available.
Yeah, I mean, credentials can expire, they can be revoked. I mean, they're stateful. So I don't know that on-chain storage, I mean, while possible, I'm not sure it's the optimal direction.
Yeah.
Tony, these are
Definitely.
but these are updatable. I mean, GCFS deals with information in versions, in layers, so you cannot update information. Of course, you cannot erase what's already written there, but to improve the UX for developers or for maybe users around this protocol, the information is dealt through something called disk NFT. That is a stateful NFT. So every time you write, you update that file system on chain, you update like the state of these files, and you have like all the prior versions stored and even referenced on chain. Even you sometimes you update just like the hierarchy of the files, like the metadata of the file system, so you're not touching the data. In that cases, you referenced prior information. You're not writing it again on chain. This is how GCFS works. And the nice thing, if you help us and
give me an example. Give me a use case. Like, why would I prefer on-chain storage versus cloud storage I control?
Because you can have perpetual applications, maybe on chain, on the same medium.
Give me an example.
Well,
give me an example. Yeah, like
actually, for example, here, I mean, there are a lot of examples on the wallet already. Here you can design the wallet you want. For example, you can derive, I don't know, 10 hierarchical deterministic addresses. Or maybe you can have anonymous multi-delegation, as I call. There is like a hierarchical deterministic scheme that is also incrementing the stake derivation, the stake, the address index of the stake keys in such a way you can have different also stake credentials to make multi-delegation. This is an example, but I mean, you design the wallet you want and you store this information on chain through GCFS. So wherever you go, there is going to be like a message on your wallet to suggest you to recover the recipe on how you have been deriving your wallet before. So you can rebuild all this setup that you have, even for example with shared treasuries or whatever you need. This is one use case. Another one is when you do multisig. Of course, with multisig, you sometimes with just one transaction, maybe storing let me go step by step. GameChanger uses, if the user wants, can use GCFS to pair different wallets to achieve a multi-sig set of transactions, not just one transaction. You can add multi-sig signatures, witnesses to a group of transactions using this protocol, GCFS, as the medium, as the pairing layer. There are two events. You broadcast the transactions on chain, and then you have like the replies of the individual wallets that are adding the missing witnesses sets, witness sets. So this is another use case, and the one I'm most excited about is if I can show you all this, and please everyone,
Multi-sig signatures collection.
nice. Please, if you are curious about one of these use cases, let me know, because or if we can do it live, or I can show you some videos. But I want to show you the most, for me, the most important use case that I want to share. That is this one. Let me check a demo so I can show you. What this here on this script, on this DSL, we can import data, okay, from GCFS and use it like JSON data. We can use it then on the DSL. This is very, very important, because with this, for example, you can have oracles. You have versioned, you have layers of data on a single file. That file can have just a big int as a string, for example. You can read this information and use it and apply it directly on the DSL. This is one example, and there is an example, a working example of this on Twitter. I can find it, but this, this is one of the things that I'm most excited about this thing. That is, forget about the encryption, because this is encrypted, but the idea of importing this, parts of this, the overall DSL code from on-chain data. You bring this information that is on-chain, stored on-chain, and you use it like importing like a library on any well-known language, programming language. What it gives you is it allows you to recover something that I've seen, that I believe we have lost from Ethereum. Cardano has amazing features. We learned a lot from Ethereum mistakes, but the ability to work upon the works of others, to keep whatever we are coding very, very open, very auditable, on a very auditable state, on a very open state, on a language that is somehow available to anyone there, and the grand majority of the developers or the people involved can understand it, can use it. The ability of making interoperable protocols to make our work interoperable and connectable and pluggable and callable from other works. This ability that is already available using GCFS and this DSL is very interesting, because you can encapsulate, for example, entire protocols, and by a minimal set of JSON provide arguments, you can be, for example, integrating and interacting with a DEX, minting NFTs with a specific specification on how to deal with the metadata, or you can do a lot of stuff, but in a very open, transparent, auditable, and forkable and clonable way, because people can. This is JSON, so people can read this. As I told you, Tony, the last time, this translates automatically into colored permissions that any user can read and kind of understand what is going on. So these are the use cases, and there are maybe much more. There is a voting DApp there around, built on top of this.
Thinking about more tangible things that you could build, it's a Git repository where you could store some minimal front end plus the smart contract code that you will compile yourself wherever. You could have version software on chain that you can trust without relying on external networks, because I think what Adriano had in mind is to remove the frictions to rely on external networks. It's always cool to store our JPEGs in IPFS, but somebody needs to pin them. I don't know a project that has been using Filecoin to pin to actually use the long-term storage capabilities for IPFS. Everybody relies on third parties to pin those objects, and they will probably be gone whenever Blockforce goes down or Piñata shuts down operations. So yeah, it's expensive, but we don't plan to store JPEGs nor video files there. But maybe for small chunks of even software makes sense. It's expensive, but at least it's not based on the model of Argwif, but it's I think it's crazy that they are setting prices foreseeing what the storage will cost 30 years ahead of time. It's just a bit unrealistic. And Cardano, well, yes, it's a bit more expensive. Well, yes, we will have to deal from the operations side of things, maybe start using some mithril snapshots to bootstrap the Cardano node. I don't know. That will be a different problem, but
I'm going to see if Jeff Kafka from 3D4 can join us here next week, because I feel like storage, decentralized storage that's resilient and highly available over time is a different problem than smart contracts on chain, right? Like, I think, yes, I agree that using the chain for storage in some cases can make sense, but general storage of things, like you mentioned, JPEGs or videos or whatnot, I don't think we have good solutions right now. Right? That's sort of what we're talking about, is whether it's Arweave or Filecoin or IPFS. Those are like first generation Web3 storage solutions. And I think 384.co is come with a pretty unique approach that solves that more like long-term storage of large objects, where on-chain just isn't going to work, right?
that's great. Yeah, I mean, Iagon as well. It's there. The thing is, if it's easy to integrate those solutions, if you can pay with ADA for that storage, that will make the apps ecosystem to actually use those solutions and adopt it.
Yep. Yeah.
Because
no,
adopting Filecoin, it just hasn't happened because you need a Filecoin wallet, and that makes the problem.
Yep. So when I first heard about 3D4 a month or two ago, I was like pretty blown away by their demo. And so I introduced them to the Book.io team and said, if the Book.io technical team thinks that this is interesting, then I'll think it's interesting, right? And so the Book.io team has actually, I think, been interested in the approach that 3D4 is taking for storage. And I'm planning to really like dive into it at Rare Evo, to like, because they're going to be there and Book will be there, and I want to sit down and like deeply understand, because I think Book.io has a storage problem, right? If anyone does, but all the NFT projects do. So anyway, I'll see if they'll join us here next week, because I think that'd be really interesting to get some experts on storage talking, because I'm sort of, out of my depth here a little bit.
That will be awesome. I'm in for next Wednesday. Even though I will be on holidays, I cannot miss that one.
Guys,
Yeah, why don't we do a storage discussion next week? Let's invite other people that have expertise in that area and like talk it through. It'd be really interesting.
okay, nice. Let's do it. Guys, just to show you an example of what I was talking about. Here it is, another use case, a way to store this code. A developer stored a way to interact with his own protocol, with his own DApp, to adhere to a CIP, whatever. This is stored as an NFT, so there is well-known Cardano cryptography there. We can verify the developer's keys, and that way we can trust the code. And here we are calling that code, but by just passing these arguments, we are calling the code stored here on this file on chain on GCFS, and that's what I'm talking about. This is what I feel that we have lost from Ethereum, and we can benefit on having back on Cardano. Because it's okay to have everything off chain, to have off chain code. It's okay, but sometimes I feel we are building too much, too opaque, too much centralized or siloed applications or protocols, because we don't have the majority of the code interacting the wallets available. Everything has to be very low level, and we have to talk very low level to understand what's going on, that people maybe don't know. End users don't have to know these abilities, these technical abilities to audit, to know what's going on on their wallets. So this is what this, for me, this was the main goal behind GCFS. Not just perma-pinning files if someone wants it, but this is for me more important. The ability to store code more than just the Bluetooth validators on chain. For me, this was it. And as you can see here, we can build upon the works of other developers. We can trust code because code has been stored on chain using the developer's keys or using a DAO's keys. A DAO setup. Just like Roe said, and I love that idea, this allows you to deal with code as a GitHub, but on chain. Because GameChanger has already multi-sig support. We have GCFS support. What if I try to build an update to this file, for example, to this file? I try to send an update of the contents of this file. And if I do it, imagine that this file has been stored on chain using multisig, using a DAO setup. Okay, so what I will be doing here is like submitting, like a PR to the project. So here we can deal with code on chain to work in a collaborative way, to work in an open way, because this forces you to work openly, because the idea is to give fully openness to the user. The user always has the ability to read this code and to use it modify it, whatever. This is a very different way of working, very web-free, because everything works on users' browsers, not on a backend. And I mean, I don't know. There is a lot to talk about. I don't know. Imagine all the possibilities. Imagine, even for example, DAOs. DAOs can define how is the governance designed by using this DSL on chain. So when they all agree to update the files that create the for example, a shared treasury address or the native script that will rule them, when the signatures are all present, they can move on and they can update their governance. Everything here is available already to try out and to build upon this. Okay, what I don't know what use case you want guys to pick.
We need a
Did-
front end for this decentralized kit based on
Maybe a voting deal like this one.
I mean, I'll just give you an example, like I've been trying to talk to people about the convergence of identity in crypto wallets for like 2 years. And even with the use case where I say student finishes a class, gets a scholarship, I talk till I'm blue in the face, like hundreds and hundreds of hours of it explaining that use case, and still people are confused. Like, why do you need the wallet? And this is even more complex. Right? You're talking about on-chain code, and like I sort of am following, but I'm not really getting it. Right? Like, as a user in the Web3 world, what does this help me do? Like, give me an example of something meaningful that either I or someone else can do because on-chain code storage. Right? Like pick one. Like you sort of, I'm sort of getting it, but you've been bouncing around different examples, so I'm not able to like grab onto like one example and go, okay, let me try and deeply understand this example so I can get what you're talking about.
Okay, maybe I need some time to work on an idea that can tell the story now. But
Yeah.
remember, I mean, if you remember the last week, this concept of stop trusting brands and start trusting code more than brands, I mean. And if we are going to trust on a brand, let's trust on on cryptographic signatures, on cryptographic proofs of the ownership or code maintenance of that brand. So what this gives you is the ability of a user to, for example, if I click I don't know, I click here in this DApp, okay, this is a very
But that's a principle. Like you're talking principles, right? Like
Yes.
it would be really helpful if you talk to a use case.
okay.
Like here's something you can do with this technology that has these benefits, but with it like a specific example. Because I'm kind of following you, but I'm not, honestly, like I'm not really getting it. Like
Okay.
I get things when I can think about, oh, like as a user, like I can put myself in a student's shoes, right? I can be like, okay, a student has to get a credential, then a student has to interact with an oracle, and then a student gets the scholarship. Like I can sort of think that through. Like what, like come, maybe next week, but like what's a concrete example? Like whether it's minting my NFT collection or I don't know, I'm lost with your examples here. Like why wouldn't I just use NMaker? Right? Or why wouldn't I just do it some other easier way? Like find an example of this that's real world
Okay,
where we we can sort of battle harden it by thinking it through, right, with a real example. Like, and I can ask you questions like, well, okay, interesting, I can use some like minting contract on chain that's been verified, but it's so much easier just to use NMaker. Like, why would I do that? These are the kind of conversations that would be interesting, but we need a use case to like, you know, beat it up.
Okay, remember this. This is on beta pre-production testnet yet, so there is no mainnet release yet. We are close, but what this means is that, of course, we don't have a bunch of the apps using this technology quite yet.
Well, it doesn't have to be in production,
right?
Like we were
Okay.
talking about the student scholarship for a year. Like we only got mainnet like last week, but it was a use case that was relatively easy to sort of walk people through. Like everyone can like put themselves in the shoes of a student that wants a scholarship, right?
Okay.
So what's an example of putting this technology to work where for the user they're like, oh, like this is great, like I can do something new or in a more secure private way or with more like, you know, I don't know.
For me, the perfect example is not needing to rely on anybody to run a smart contract. And that connects to the GitHub idea, but simplifying it a lot, it's okay, there is a vendor that releases a open source smart contract, some minimal front end, and everything is on chain. And if I can run run a Cardano node, I will be able to grab that source code that is signed by the trusted entity because I know the public key or wherever I save the public key, and I can run everything on my own. I don't need to rely on third-party backends or brands or not even HTTPS to execute that DApp. But that's truly decentralized and fully contained on Cardano. I don't know if that helped.
It does, but like as you're walking through that sort of abstract example, I'm seeing the addressable user like market shrinking and shrinking and shrinking.
Yeah.
Right. There's like 5 people and they're probably all on this call that like even understand what you said, much less care. And so we got to get to like away from the abstract idea. Like what's an actual concrete use case where this would be applicable that people would actually use?
I mean, we won't be able to convince the regular user to use these technologies, but we want them to use them because it's better this way, right? So it's making it appealing to the regular user. It's a challenge, but we know we don't want to trust, we want to verify and run. I mean, I said future is backendless because I imagine a time in the near future where you can run Kupo in your browser, connected to the relays of the Cardano network, and doing your own stuff without relying on Blockfrost or whatever, right? And we just need to make that happen for the regular user in a transparent way. Same for IPFS. You will connect to IPFS through your Brave's browser gateway to IPFS instead of connecting to some third-party node out there. So yeah, I get your point, but I will need to spend some time doing the marketing for for the use case.
Well, it could be that I think picking a use case that people are willing to believe you will be better, and then you market that, and then you get people to use it. And and then you can. I mean, it sounds like the value prop is, more transparency, less reliance on third parties for the things you do in Web3. But then for the average user, it has to be at least as easy as the alternatives, if not easier.
The thing is, GameChanger users are developers building on top of this infrastructure that Adriano has laid out, right? So I will argue that we keep the conversation technical. With GCFS, Adriano is enabling Cardano developers to do more stuff more easily without relying on IPFS, Filecoin, Argwit, or whatever. It's staying contained on Cardano network, and that makes easier to bootstrap an idea that follows the principles.
Got it.
But yeah.
Maybe
I didn't realize GameChanger was your audience really is developers that want to build wallets. So that I didn't quite get that, but that makes more sense.
Yeah, mostly it's low code wallet for developers, although it can also be very friendly for regular users. It's very friendly, I would say, because it showed NFTs since the very beginning. It made it, the Cardano experience very smooth and simple. But yeah, all these advanced features are developer centric.
Got it.
maybe
Okay.
Martin.
That's helping. That's actually helping. Yeah.
Martin, I was thinking on you, and you raised the hand. If you're not going to tell the story about the QR code, another use case. I mean, use cases are infinite. But go
like
on.
the
go
QR
on.
code, like the payment system I'm making. But
And
I was trying to maybe add something to the discussion because like I see GCFS, if you have like a versioned document, could be like a driver's license, right? You start with the document on a date and it's empty. You've not got your driver's license yet. So this is a simple document with not a lot of data. I mean, you can get your like scooter license, then your car license and your truck license. But if you do this if you make this document in GCFS and well, maybe this could be very interesting if you have a DID wallet, like maybe GameChanger is adding. This very simple document could be in GCFS and you could see the changes made to it, like over the years. So it would be like a document which is stored on chain, but doesn't use a lot of data. So that could be a use case.
I got one. Governance documents. Right. I would never want to put my driver's license on chain. Right. Like never. I don't care what encryption you're using. Eventually that encryption gets compromised over time. But things like governing documents where the community needs access to these kinds of information for transparency, like that makes sense. There's been this idea of machine readable governance, right? Like how do Dapps that are performing business logic on behalf of an ecosystem know where the latest set of rules are? And that could be an interesting sort of thought exercise. Because governing documents do need to be open, do need to be immutable, do need to have a revision history.
Yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, I think that is also a good approach maybe, but yeah, I mean, if encryption gets broken on Cardano, well,
eventually it will, right? Like given enough time, quantum decryption is eventually, I think most people believe eventually quantum is going to get strong enough to break like the encryption we have today. So putting things on chain that you don't want compromised ever. I mean, I don't know. This is a whole nother conversation, but
yeah,
generally putting
have...
PII, like driver's license has PII, right? Like,
yeah.
But it is kind of like a DID already. So you put your DID on your wallet. So if it gets compromised,
so DIDs, the only reason you put DIDs on chain is if they need to be publicly available. Everything else with with SSI is off chain.
But Tony, you just brought to my mind some conversation regarding proximity networks, regarding storage. And I would love to discuss those with Iagon guys and 384. This notion of, social proximity networks for storage. I will only store my private files on nodes from people that I trust, or from operators that I trust. That's a social proximity networks. It's something that I read from Tailscale, this VPN solution. And I think it's, it's something that storage network should leverage, allowing people to choose which nodes they trust to store even chunks of their files.
Sorry for deviating a bit back to the topic. This is another use case probably. Back in the day, Aldea DAO, a DAO from Latin America, made public all the movements that they were doing with their treasury and their airdrop governance airdrop, and they were using the very first version of GameChanger Wallet scripting. Let's say it was not a DSL yet, but one of the another goal of this all these systems working together is to make this on chain, to store this on chain, to make it public, and to allow, for example, DAOs and users related to DAOs to trust their movements. For example, their treasury movements, their for example, their recurrent fund transfers, so they can design these transactions, these movements, or the design once again of the very same governance of these DAOs, and they can store it on chain and became automatically auditable, public, and trustable, because this has been stored using the proper keys. People can verify that. I know, once again, maybe technical, that it's one other idea.
Cool. No, it's starting to sink in a bit. I think let's do a storage topic next week, and let me get the 3D4 guys here, and let's invite our other friends that are like storage geeks to come and like brainstorm about it, because I think there's, storage is such a general thing, right? Like, you don't want to store your driver's license on chain, but you maybe do want to store on chain code that's been signed. So there's probably like a whole lot of discussion still to be had.
Nice. That would be awesome. Thanks
Okay.
for coming. It's getting very interesting.
Cool.
Every week. So
Javi, you better make it.
Thank you, guys. See you next week.
Awesome. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks for coming.
Bye. Have a good one.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Hey, bye, Juan.
Oops, I was eating here, making a lot of noise. I'm sorry.